Alrighty, so for this assignment, you're going to learn something that you will use throughout the rest of this semester. So whenever I have you handle images that prove like work concepts, an image like a print screen, if you've ever heard of that, which is basically just a picture of your desktop or whatever is on your screen. Now, do not use your phone for this because I want you to know how to take these print screens and what we call natively, right, with the computer. So there's two things you're going to do here. And in this first video, I'll walk you through these first two steps and just talk about some of the concepts. So first, find a picture of you and then take a print screen of your computer that you're going to use for this course. So first, a picture of you. Of course, most of us are using our phones to do this, depending then on where you're storing it. I use Google Photos. Many people also use the Mac system, the iPhone system to do that. So whatever one, wherever you get it, or if you already have it on your phone, somehow you have to get it on the computer. So for me, here's a photo of me. I did the two cities what was that 10K. It was really fun. It was a fun day for me. So, the idea here is that you want a photo of you. If you have a photo of you and somebody else, and I know it may sound rude, but like crop them out or edit them out. But I'm going to show you in general how to, at least on Windows. And that's the other thing. For this assignment, I've switched to Windows. Before this, I was using a Mac, mostly because that's my main operating system. But I use both because you use multiple operating systems. The question would be, can you do this on a Chromebook? And the answer is yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I could just right click here and say save image as, but I can also use the interface that Google gives me to download. Now, part of this may be it might download it versus downloading it versus the raw file, and that has to do with the size, but it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to go download. Now, what you can tell here is that that image is first, it's got an extension, it's got a long file name, and then I'm in Chrome here. So I could either show all. Let's go ahead and do that, actually. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to show all, and then that shows me where it came from, the file itself, and I can say show in folder. I can also just go down to my folder in Windows, right? And you might think, well, where is it located? And in this view, you can actually see where it's at, but generally those go into the downloads, okay? So here we go. Here's the photo itself. Now, the thing that I like about Windows, and by the way, this is actually true for Mac as well, and I'm going to minimize the back window, is that there's a program built into the system that when I double click on here is the default program for here. Yours will maybe be different, maybe be the same, but let me just show you this one because I like it for various reasons. So what happens here is that the photo that I double click there automatically opens here. And there's various things I could do, but more than anything, I want to come over here and I want to hit resize image. Now, why do I want to do that? Because the image itself, as a matter of fact, if I wanted to show you this, I could hit, first we can see how big it is. It's fairly large. And what I mean by that is the size on the hard drive. You can also come into properties and look at its details and look at its resolution. It's 2160 by 3840, which, because our phones have such high resolution, right? That's great, but for what I need it for, I want it lower. And I want it lower because I want the file size lower, okay? So again, back here, I'm going to come in here. I'm going to say resize image. And what I like about this program is it's actually telling me options like best for viewing, best for profile and thumbnails. And this is what it's going to be used for in this case. So I'm going to click here. And what that does, and I want you, if your editing program doesn't have that, and then I just want you to follow that general file size. Let me actually go show you again so we can see it. Okay, so if I go resize image, it's going to recommend a 384 by 682. Now that's because of the size or the way this is cropped or way I took the photo. So as long as it's within the range, your photo, that's what I'm looking for. Okay. So the other thing it's going to do is it's going to save it now. Now it's going to save it in a different location. And that's important to understand because you're going to need it in a minute. Because right now it's still on our local systems and we're going to place it on the web. So the other thing is I'm going to rename it. I'm going to give it my name, which by the way, if you're uncomfortable sharing an image of you, reach out to me and give me something that you feel represents you, which is totally fine. I just ask you to reach out to me. Now, and here's the key: lowercase, no spaces. This tells you the extension. So we'll go ahead and hit save here. Cool. So that first one, the picture of me, is ready to go. So let's go just look at where it's located. If I go to pictures, and I will see it located there, and look how much smaller in file size this is, which is what you want. For the web, we want things to load quick, and that means we want to optimize their resolution, which will optimize their size. Okay, so now let's go to the next thing we need to do. So now what we want to do is also here is take a picture of the print screen, or take a picture of your desktop, right? Now, what I mean by that, well, let's do it, and in the process of doing it, I'll talk about it. Oh, well, let me actually do this. Go to Google and type, you can either, by the way, you can do it up here or you can do it down here, depending on how your computer's set up. I can do print screen, and that could either be print screen or a screenshot, and you can tell it what operating system you're using. If you were using a Mac, if you just wanted to see in general, there's support. I mean, there's articles to help you understand how to take one. Okay. But on Windows, it's really easy. They have this built in, and I have it setting down on my taskbar, but you could just search for snipping tool. It's on all, and this, I'm using Windows 10 here, right? But in this case, if I just run it, but I did just drag it and place it on here. So that way, whenever I need it, I can have it. So before you take your print screen, just think about that you're going to share this with the class. I'm emptying the recycling bin because I'm anal about that. And so what you want to think about is if there's something on your desktop you don't think would be appropriate for class sharing, change it. And the other thing is you could just want to understand what OS you're using. I'm using Windows, but what version of Windows am I using? Right? And there's a couple ways you could tell this. If I go into my file manager and I right click on PC, I go to properties, I can actually tell right here I'm using Windows 10 Home Edition version. Here's the version. I can also tell from up here, I think, what system type, which is a 64-bit, a 64-bit processor. So that it's good to know that stuff, right? I like right now, and I'm not going to require this. You can do this however you want. I could take the print screen with this showing, which would be kind of nice. So I think I will do that. But again, if you just want to do your desktop because maybe it's got a picture of your kids or of your dog or of your significant other, whatever that is. So down here, I'm going to click on the snipping tool. And the snipping tool gives me a couple of options. That's called modes. And I'm going to do in this case, I'm going to do a full screen snippet. And what that does is it takes the print screen and it opens it in this tool. So now I'm going to save the file. I'm going to do File, Save As. Now, like before, it's saving it as a JPEG, but notice it's uppercase, and I don't necessarily like that. Now, on your computer, it might save it as a PNG, and I wouldn't recommend that because it's just going to be a larger file. So in this case, I also don't like the capture because it's an uppercase file name. That's default file name. So I'm going to do my print screen. And because I want a lowercase extension, I'm going to do JPG. Again, standards recommend lowercase, no spaces in file names. And this is for reasons that we will see as we move through the class. Okay, so I'm going to hit save here. Cool. Now this is still setting in this app, so I'm just going to close it. I'm going to close this as well. And I'm going to go down to my file manager or file explorer, and I'm going to go into pictures to see that they are both now in here. And I should have shown you the file size on this one before I haven't done it actually. Let's do that now. That's what I actually was thinking about. So now on this one, I also want to resize it because notice as I hover over the file, it shows it's 1020 by 1080, which by the way is the resolution of the screen. So let's go ahead and double click. Okay, now again, this gets a little confusing because it looks like my desktop, but it's its application, and I think it's just called Photos in Windows, built in, I'm pretty sure. Resize the image. Now notice how this one, let's see here. Yeah, actually this one, interesting, right? Because of its width and height, a reverse, meaning it's longer than it is, its width is longer than its height. Now it's just reversing them. But so when you do yours, have something in this range. Like if you made it a 700, because one thing is when you're editing images, if you give it the first dimension, it'll figure out the second dimension for you. So it did that. Cool, good. And notice how now it's like, oh, actually by default, the Windows Explorer defaults to lowercase. So I'm going to hit save there. Oh, I already had it. Yeah, so that's a really good point. Let me get out of here. So when I did that, I overwrote the file that I had. Notice now how much smaller that file is. Okay, so I'm going to do the last step before we end this particular video is I'm going to come over to GitHub in our organization. I'm going to go to public, and inside public, I'm going to go to images. And in here, I'm going to go file. And by the way, I don't know if I've said this. I actually have the dark theme turned on GitHub because I like it that way. So I'm going to upload images. I'm going to choose them. And I'm going to click here. And I think I'm holding shift. Yeah, I'm holding shift so I can do them at the same time. Otherwise, you'll want to do them one at a time if you don't see that option. So now it's uploading both of them. And now I just for a moment want to talk about this little commit. And this commit you're going to get used to as we move through the course. And I could say add files, but these are default message, but I could also say uploading hello world images. A little long, right? Actually, that'd probably be more appropriate here. Resized and uploading. Print screen and my photo. Okay, again, I'm just trying to get you used to this process. So hit commit. And this is now where we see these images. If you go back into images, now we see these two images out on GitHub. So I'm going to stop this because I'm going to actually pick this up in another video just to show you now how to embed them into Canvas.